So in the middle of this universe of different styles and strains of disco, there was one act who really defined it all, which was Chic.
Yeah, I think they're very unique in the disco history because they're probably the people who sold the most with a music that stayed true to sort of the original foundation of disco. I mean, it's black music. It has that gospel thing because of the vocalists that work on it. And at the same time, it crossed over the pop charts in so many countries, probably worldwide. It's probably the disco music that people have heard the most. They were this unique team of people and they had a unique sound. And all the songs they made, they're still played today. They played on the radio. I mean, you can go do your groceries and you can hear a Chic song, and that's totally normal. But there's only about 10 of those songs from the 70s that still get played today in mass media, in the mass media.
But I think the most important thing that you said, they've retained their credibility.
Absolutely.
For some reason,
up
they
to
just
this day.
100%, and not only in the terms of the productions and the songs that you knew, but in the way that they've been sampled, like Sugar Hill Gang sampling Good Times, and it was just like I remember I read Nile Rodgers' book, and he was horrified when he was like, who's stolen my record? And sampling, that was for me one of the first examples of wow, someone else has borrowed someone else's record and put their own lyrics on top of it. And so that gave Chic another life in a different way.
Absolutely, yes. It's a way of giving credit, even though it's the opposite in terms of economy, but it's a homage to start with, because like, oh, this record is so good that I'm going to sample it. This is kind of what we're doing here, is that we don't sample, but we take something that's relatively old, it's 40 years old, and we present it back to the people today who might not know the whole story about it. As a compiler, as a DJ, that's what I'm doing. That's what I like doing, is take records that are old, but they're so good that they need to be played today amidst the new things. And rather than sampling it physically, like taking a snippet and making a record and sticking my name onto it, I would rather take them, give them a new, I would say not even paint, coat of varnish, and present them to the people amidst the modern sounds, and try to make them fit within that modern sound, that kind of sonic spectrum, and present them back as unaltered as I can.
Well, and also, technology and producing records has obviously advanced in 30 years. So,
Yes.
you're able to put them into a new environment. You keep the authenticity of the record.
And this is what I'm trying to do. And the main motivation for me is to present them to people who had no idea of the global aspect of what they were, and can actually enjoy them as something new to them. I'm not trying to be retro. I'm trying to just keep the history going in a way that I think is respectful to the history.
For sure. And the other thing about Chic and Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards was not only the records that they released as Chic, but it was their productions.
Yes.
that they did for Sister Sledge.
It's something that's totally obvious to music people, but a lot of people don't know that actually Sister Sledge is exactly Chic with another vocalist. Then Diana Ross, or some of her biggest hits like Upside Down, are actually Chic playing and writing the songs, and she's just performing the song. Also, who else did they produce?
With David Bowie, Let's
Dance, and later on he went to produce huge pop acts like Madonna or Duran Duran.
And Blondie.
Blondie as well. So there was this time during the late 70s, early 80s where Chic as a band, I'm talking like the drummer, the keyboard player, the guitar player, that's Nile Rodgers, the bass player, that's the co-founders of the duo, Bernard Edwards. They were playing for other bands. It was not called Chic, but the sound was exactly the same. And one of the purpose of this compilation we're talking about today is to group those together in one package and try to showcase what it was, what that sound generally was, in a way, in a sonic way that's acceptable by today's standards, that can let those records fit within the other records that are made today.
For sure. So with such a vast catalogue, how did you go around selecting the tracks on this? It's this compilation. It's not really. It's a collection, though.
Yeah. I mean, compilation is not the exact word, because it's not like a mix CD or a mixtape or just like a playlist would say today of different things. It's within the music that this Chic organization, as they were calling themselves, which was the production core that those musicians were in. Tried to get, I mean, it's always a personal choice, but there are certain things that are just unavoidable. Like if Le Freak is here, that's probably their biggest hit that people know, and even the younger people know today. It's something you cannot go without. It needs to be there to just show what those people were capable of in terms of quality and pop appeal, and then try to bring together other things that might not have been their bigger hits, which were maybe slightly more musical or less pop in the way they were written and produced, and put that together. And when you have everything together, it gives you like a whole picture of what Chic were about. They had this ability to create timeless songs that we still talk about 40 years later, and that were just pure pop songs, but at the same time extremely sophisticated pieces of music. And that's quite unique in the history of artists and music producers. There are only a handful of those people.
So it's, you know, you have a particular style to your reproduction of records. I mean, you know, you said that they're...
I would say more, I would call it like a restoration, like, you know, like you restore a piece of art because there's a little bit missing, or you want to put a coat of shine, but you don't want to, you know, you're not going to change the Venus from Milo. You just, like, if it's dirty, you're going to clean it, you're going to give it a new shine, but you're not going to add an arm to it. See what I mean? So that's kind of how I think of things.
So one of the new remixes that is going to be included in the album is Sister Sledge, Got Somebody to Love, which is not an obvious Sister Sledge record.
I was going to ask you, because this is one of my personal faves, but at the same time, I don't remember this as being a huge Sister Sledge hit. But again, you know, I was in France, you're in England, and things have always been very, very different in what was appreciated here as opposed to the rest of the world.
No, we had the choice. We had the choice between that.
I gave you the choice, yes.
You did, between Got Somebody to Love
and We Are Family, wasn't it?
We Are Family. And I felt that We Are Family is kind of a little too obvious.
It's the biggest hit, isn't it?
For sure. And Got Somebody to Love was a personal record that I loved, and it's a great dance floor record. And you had access to the multi-tracks, and the result is great, actually.
Thank you.
And what you've delivered a full club version with the vocal and an instrumental version, and that you've also done that on all of the tracks on this album. Yes,
that's something that we should mention, that although some of the songs were out 7 years ago, like 4 or 5 of the songs were out initially, on this new project I've added all the instrumental versions of the songs. And when you say instrumental, sometimes it sounds a bit boring, or it's without the vocals, you know. It's kind of like a sub-standard version of a song, but the music is so great. Even myself, like hearing back the instrumentals that I'd forgotten I'd cut back in the time, I was like, wow, they stand on their own as symphonies of music, because the playing is so good, the arrangement is so nice that you could just play them as a piece of music on their own.
So this is the first time something like an instrumental is going to be available of Le Freak.
Absolutely, yeah, it's never been available before.
So, as a fanboy of Chic, how do you feel to be able to come here and talk about being in, you know, basically producing this whole concept? How do how does that make you feel?
I try not to think about it too much, because when I'm doing it, I'm feeling like so little compared to, I mean, the bulk of work that Nile Rodgers and Ben Edwards did. I mean, sometimes I'm in my studio, which is in my apartment. It's a small home studio thing, and I'm remixing Chic Le Freak, and I'm like, who am I to really do this? I mean, those records sold millions. They were done with the best sound engineers in the best studios with the best available team around it. I'm like here on my computer, on my little Pro Tools thing, remixing it, and I feel like, wow, I'm so lucky, and at the same time I feel the pressure on my shoulders. Like, I don't want to mess that up. I don't want people who love them to say anything bad about it, because I mean, I'm messing with them somehow.
It's a huge responsibility.
It is, because there are so many people who love this music without the need to mess with it. I mean, a lot of people say, well, it's good. Why do you need to, get your hands over it? And we're doing this. I mean, I'm doing this because I want to offer them more music. It's not like I'm thinking I can do better than what's done. Like, no way. That's not the point. The point is, I'm trying to give you more of what you already like, and try to take it this way rather than who's this guy thinking he can do better than Nile Rodgers. I'm not trying to be, no one will be better than himself, than Nile Rodgers. I'm just trying to give you more of Nile Rodgers and his team. That's how I see things.
And having heard it, what I've heard, I think you're going to achieve that. So
let's hope for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon.